Hey, good morning. Welcome to Monday, another week. It's November. I'm kind of undecided on November. Fall is probably my favorite season, but by November, it's just kind of cold and gray. And at least here, we've had a little snow, but we don't have any snow. And it's even though I love fall, I'm just putting it out here, November might be my least favorite month. Just, though one of my favorite holidays, Thanksgiving, happens in November. So, what have we got today? By the way, my body's still ravaged by a tremendous cold. I could barely pull myself up to do the show today, but I endeavored to persevere, and here I am. We talked about this on Friday. Remember Bob Daisley's Holy Grail? Bob Daisley, of course, was a member of the original Blizzard of Oz. And by the way, when this all started, the idea is this was going to be a band, right? Ozzy had found Randy. They were recording what was going to be a great album. They were super excited about the stuff they were putting together. And when I say they, I mean Randy, Bob, and Ozzy. The three of them worked together. Lee didn't come in until kind of the final stages of the first album. But from the beginning, the idea was this was going to be a band. The band was going to be called Blizzard of Oz. So through this whole time in 1979, as they're recording, the understanding was that this was going to be a band project, the Blizzard of Oz. That was going to be the band. And it wasn't until Bob and Randy and everyone saw the album cover that it said Ozzy Osbourne in great big letters and then Blizzard of Oz. And then they realized, we're Ozzy's backing band. So there's this whole, and guys, these are two of my favorite albums of all time, Blizzard and Diary. Phenomenal albums. I love them. But it's also the beginning of what would be a pattern of, I'm going to say it, a pattern of abuse from the Ozzy camp towards the musicians in the band. Sharon, at the time, Sharon Arden, daughter of Don Arden. Don Arden, of course, a longtime manager of Black Sabbath and other groups. And Sharon was kind of put on the Ozzy project and was kind of the band's manager. And she, like her dad, was tough, right? And obviously a very sharp business person, and she knew what she was doing. She had a vision, and probably, to be honest, exactly what Ozzy needed. I don't think Ozzy would be Ozzy without Sharon. I think that's the truth. But there's a history of Ozzy, and when I say Ozzy and Sharon, I think mostly Sharon, treating band members poorly. I mean, Bob Daisley has had to sue Sharon and Ozzy multiple times to get paid royalties. We've already talked about the fact that Sharon didn't want to have to pay Bob and Lee, so she had their parts removed from 2 classic albums. Think about that. I know, we'll just take your bass part and your drum parts off of Blizzard and Diary and re-release it. Well, that just made people furious. So they took those off the market and put the ones back on that had Bob and Lee. But can you imagine? So why am I getting into all this again? Well, because over the weekend, Bob has responded to the comments that Sharon made on the Osbournes podcast, that they didn't want they said 2 things, right? For those that aren't aware, Bob has almost 8 hours of recordings of the band, the Blizzard of Oz band, working on material. He calls it the Holy Grail. Rightly so. A lot of Randy Rhoads fans. These albums over the years, they've become the thing of legend because of Randy Rhoads, right? Randy Rhoads was just a phenomenal talent, super tragic that he lost his life at 25 years of age. but the work that came out on those two albums is magic, historical. So Bob's got almost 8 hours of material that could be released. One of them, by the way, is a cut of Flying High Again with Lee Kerslake singing instead of Ozzy. That would be interesting. I've actually seen videos of Lee Kerslake singing like Crazy Train or I don't know or something in his later years. He's not a bad singer, actually. But anyways, this exists. Now, Ozzy and Sharon, Ozzy said the quality of it was dreadful. So there's two things they say. They say the quality's bad, and then they also say, well, it really should go to the family. And they make it sound like, that it's not really in their hand, first of all, they're not really that interested because the quality's bad and that it really should go to the family. Well, what they don't tell you, and this is what Bob says in his responses, anything that goes to the family, they've got an arrangement with Ozzy, the Ozzy camp, that it's basically the same thing. It would be released as an Ozzy project or whatever. And as far as the quality being bad, Bob says two things. He says, number one, the quality isn't that bad. People have heard it and thought, wow, that sounds pretty good. They were all recorded on a boom box that Bob had. This is early 80s. Now, guys, some of the early boom boxes were actually pretty good. I mean, the mics on them, I've heard recordings people have made from a boom box with a stereo mic that they've stuck, and they do not sound bad. Now, they're not recording studio quality, but as Bob calls it, it's rehearsal quality, right? It's not like a little Radio Shack cassette recorder that they used. But Bob says he recorded everything because they didn't want to forget stuff. So he recorded everything. Excuse me. Again, I'm at death's door today, so bear with me. I'm a little over dramatic. That's what my wife says. So over the weekend, Bob responded to all of this, right? And he said, again, the thing that we mentioned on Friday, if it's so bad, then why did they want to buy it from me back in 2011 for the box set? They wanted to buy it from me, but they wanted to just buy it for a pittance and then take it from Bob, and then he'd not ever see it again. And he said then they'd edit it up in such a way to make it look like it was all Ozzy and Randy. So they have a history of minimizing Bob and Lee's contribution from the very beginning to make it all about Ozzy. And they'll promote Randy. Now, it would be interesting if Randy was still alive, because the story goes Randy was about to leave Ozzy. Had Randy not died and had he lived, and let's say he never did another album with Ozzy, they'd probably be trashing Randy too. I mean, let's just be honest. That's the pattern. But Bob is, he's responding and saying, hey, that's not the way it went down. So we'll continue to watch this. I would love to hear that Holy Grail material. And with today's technology, they could clean it up. It would sound pretty good. So more to come on that. Speaking of Ozzy, Penelope Spheris, she's a movie director, has confirmed that her unreleased Ozfest documentary, We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll, there was also a live Sabbath album of the same name, right? Was it a live album or just a greatest hits package? I can't remember. We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll will finally see the light of day. The 77-year-old director, whose best known works include the trilogy titled The Decline of Western Civilization, all of those covering an aspect of Los Angeles' underground culture, and Wayne's World, her highest grossing film. She said that We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. It has been, let's see, I did go to the Motion Picture Academy Museum because they screened We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll recently, which is a movie that I did with Sharon and Ozzy 20 years ago, and it was never released. It has Black Sabbath, original Black Sabbath. So this was a tour that they came back and did with with Bill, the one tour on Ozfest. It's a great film, and Sharon says she's going to release it now. So watch for that to be released sometime. Veteran hard rock band Extreme has added more dates to its Thicker Than Blood tour with special guest Living Colour. The new shows will follow Extreme's recently announced January-February 2024 shows with Living Colour, which will kick off in Inglewood, New Jersey on January 24th and include an appearance on the Monsters of Rock cruise in early March. So the new dates, looks like there's about 8 or 10 dates. Orlando, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Huntsville, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, and Nashville, Tennessee. And I bet there will be more dates added. Guys, Extreme came out at a time in the dying days of hair metal. And I'm going to put Winger in this category too, and I'll tell you why I'm lumping them together. Extreme and Winger, because they were at the tail end of the big hair metal days, they missed the wave of 84 and 85. They were in the later 80s, and so they had an album or two. They had a modicum of success, but here's the difference. Extreme and Winger both mega talented compared to most of the LA scene bands. It's just the truth. Okay. Killer players in both bands, and their timing was bad. Had they come out a year or two earlier, both bands had massive success. They were successful, but they would have been even bigger. Now they have both in the last few months released killer albums. Wingers is awesome. Extremes is awesome. And they didn't get the appreciation they deserved when they were out because of the timing, right? I mean, they blow the crap out of Poison or Motley Crue or most of those. They just do. I mean, from a talent, they're just way better. Don't get me going. But if you have a chance to see Extreme, Nuno Bettencourt, just an animal. Golly. Check out their new albums, both Extreme and Winger. You're in for a treat. In a new interview, this kind of broke over the weekend. In a new interview with the Los Angeles Times, Rush bassist and vocalist Geddy Lee, who is currently promoting his upcoming memoir, My Effin' Life, was asked if he misses the band. He responded, "Oh, F yeah, enormously. It was hard for me when Neil announced he was going to retire, which is a word I refuse to hear. La, 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 la. Do I miss the adulation? No, but I miss the sound of the crowd a little bit. When I go see my friends on tour, I am jealous. They're still enjoying it." He continues, "It's been 8 years since the last Rush gig. To start the whole thing up again takes an incredible amount of koyach, which is Yiddish for strength. Would I do it again? It's possible. Will I do something else musically? It's possible. Now that I've turned myself into a farkakti, which is Yiddish for lousy writer, once I've turned myself into a farkakti writer, a lousy writer, I have to get this out of the way first." He's in the middle of writing his book and all of that. Asked if there could ever be another Rush show, Geddy said, "There could be a show that paid tribute to the songs of Rush. I would never say there will never be another Rush show." We get approached all the time. And that is what people got all excited about. And guys, you got to remember, Geddy and Al have known each other like since they were 10 years old. Okay. They've been best friends. And I think they're actually best friends. So a lot of bands will kind of break up and after years, the bands become a business relationship. And I'm not sure how close they really are. But Geddy and Alex were next door neighbors. You know, their families they've grown up to, I mean, they're like best friends. So I'm making a prediction. There will absolutely be more projects with Geddy and Alex working together. Will it be called Rush? I don't know. He's not ruling it out. So it will be interesting to see. Now, I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it because I have to. I'm a journalist. Okay. I have to shine a light of truth on things. Love Rush to death. Geddy can't sing anymore. Okay. He can't sing the classic stuff. Just throwing it out there. So if they got together and did stuff, obviously the register has to come down. They got to do some things different. But Geddy really struggling with the vocal parts, in my opinion, on the last few tours. I mean, it didn't sound good. Love him to death. I'm just throwing it out there as a friend. Okay. Throwing it out there. Guys, that's what I got. I don't have an album today. So today is a free album day. Check out an album of your choice. Listen to it from front to back. Let me know what you chose and what you thought. That'd be fun. Yeah. So in the comments, wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Facebook, on X, I'd love to hear your comments. What album do you recommend? What album did you listen to? And I'll check it out as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for the next Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. Live long and prosper. We'll see you. Bye-bye.